I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take the May 16th meetings off. I didn't have a chance. I tried to get a hold of Sammy this week, and she's out for 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
We really need to pull the April 18th because there were some revisions that were requested. The original draft was sent out, and not with the corrections.
Okay.
So we should probably, and Sammy was gone and couldn't, ask her
Get him
to
out.
change it.
Okay.
So we really just have the July 5th ones to look at.
I'll move approval of the July 5th minutes.
Second?
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. Do we have any additions or deletions?
I have none.
Hearing of the public on agenda items. Do we want to wait right before the TARDA presentation, or? Okay. So, Darrell, that puts you up.
Good evening. You have before you the monthly report for June for the zoning department. We had 62 permits issued for the month versus 53 a year ago. That was an estimated dollar value of just under $4.8 million. And year to date, we're at 265. That's a 17% increase in number of permits. And estimated value is $43.8 million. And that's a 127% increase over last year. Single-family dwelling permits. Next page, Scott. Thank you. Year to date, we're at 55 versus 40 a year ago. That's a 37.5% increase. Estimated dollar value is at $17.6 million. That is just under a 92% increase over last year. And then the approximate estimated value per dwelling for this year, year to date, is $320,000 versus $230,000 last year, and that's represents a 39% increase. Next page. Zoning complaints. We had 41 zoning complaints for the month of June. There's an increase of 17% over last year. And year-to-date, we're at 157, representing a 44% increase over a year ago. Next page. Monthly meetings for the zoning department. The Board of Zoning Appeals had 2 cases. One variance request for the Moe's Southwest Diner that's coming in on Monroe Street. And then 2 variance requests for residents on Skelly Road. The Zoning Commission did not meet, and we did not have project plan review. And then on the last page is just a couple items of note that I'll let you read at your leisure. If there's no other questions, I'll go on to my next item. I have Resolution 17088. This is a PUD amendment request for Quarry Creek Manor. You've received the staff report. I can answer any questions you have on that or go over the highlights. And the applicant is here as well.
You guys have any questions?
I don't, John.
I don't. I'll move approval of Resolution 17088 to amend the PUD plan unit development for Quarry Creek Manor.
Second?
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Darrell.
I appreciate your work in laying these people.
Evening, gentlemen.
Hi, Rob.
Hi. I have a couple items on the agenda tonight. First is the monthly report for June. I submitted. The crews completed their first round of street sweeping, and we are still continuing our sign upgrade. Continuing infrastructure repairs internally on our internal crews with basin repair, some ADA walks, curb repairs, those type of natures, and concrete. We continue to do right-of-way mowing in the facility areas. We did 77 locates for Iowa Utility Public Protection Services, but we had 411 tickets to review. So it seems to be the trend's going up on those. We did participate in Safety Town. We had a demonstration and a crew out there put together some items out there for that, and we also prepared Safety Town prior to it, helped paint and set up the area. We did receive our new street sweeper. We inspected it and put it into service. Anticipate next month, if you want to review it, we'll bring it up to the area up here. Hopefully all the signage will be on it by then, and it will have our Sylvania Township logo as well. The road department conducted a quarterly safety meeting. In that meeting, some of the items specifically brought up were silica protection and confined space entry stuff. And we discussed those with the union, and it seems to be all going well. The service department, we're rebuilding our brine tanks, preparing for winter already. And we did a review of all of our stocked items, items that have been sitting around for years in anticipation of using, old bumpers, old police car items and stuff like that. And we went through and we took about 3 dump truck loads out of the service department. We either recycled them, sold them, or donated them to other agencies that were still using those particular items, such as the old Crown Vicks material. We also did a used tire turn-in, and also you can see the miscellaneous reports. So we did some training in the month of June, the CPR AED. All employees in the department got certified, and I appreciate the fire department, Steve Kahn and Chief Ram for your assistance in that. Training was excellent, and we did receive our cards. I also did some training with the fire department on their new service. Emergency reporting service, trying to get up to speed a little bit on that. Second page. The project tracking list, the OPWC resurfacing project, mostly done in the St. James area, that was completed. We received a lot of compliments on the contractors' conduct in that area and the way they worked with the residents on getting that done. The resurfacing project, the second resurfacing project, is out for bid, and should see that paperwork coming through your desk. Some other items, the crack seal program, which is part of the Lucas County Co-op that we participated in, went very well and completed as well. And if you don't have any questions, that's my monthly report.
Do you have a mileage on crack seal?
I do have a mileage. I don't have it on me at this time, but it's roughly 11 miles. It's 11 point something miles. I don't know the exact mileage. I just don't have it with me. Any other questions?
I'll offer Resolution 17-081, authorized to award bid to enter into contract for 2017 Sylvania Township resurfacing project.
Second?
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
The last item I had on the agenda, thank you, was for the request by the board to conduct a speed hump survey through Lucas County Engineer's Office on the Goodhue Avenue road. The conclusion of the survey was the traffic volumes and the speed data were collected in May to determine the traffic volumes and to justify if the installation of speed humps were needed. The results were the township's warrants for speed humps require that the average traffic volumes approach 1,500 vehicles per day, and that the 85 percentile speed exceed the posted 25-mile speed limit by a minimum of 10 miles per hour, which basically means 85% of the vehicles going down the road have to be exceeding the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit by 10 miles per hour. The results of the traffic study for the majority of the road do not indicate either warrants the speed or the traffic count. There was a section of the road that did exceed the average daily traffic count. If you go down to the Goodhue, Warner to Quezon Avenue area, you'll see that it did approach the 1,700 vehicles daily traffic count. The adjusted traffic count would be 1,600, which still exceeds the 1,500. The adjusted just means it's seasonal. Obviously, more traffic through the summer than there is the winter, so they adjust it seasonally. But it did not meet the 85 percentile. So the conclusion is that it doesn't meet the requirements set forth by the board for the installation of speed humps.
Mr. Steve Sable had signed in on non-agenda items to speak about the speeding on Goodhue. So I would, seeing that it is an agenda item, if he wants to come up and give comments to this survey or have concerns, you're more than welcome to do so at this time. Please come up and state your name and your address, and you can comment on the study. I think that's fair.
Sure.
Sure.
I am Steve Sable. My address is 3240 Marjo Avenue. I'm like the second house off of Goodhue, so I've got all this traffic by me all the time. Anyways, you just heard that we did not meet the criteria set for 1,500 vehicles per day and a percentage of average speed. It was not met for the speed bump. The data report reflected that there were 1,700 vehicles per day between Warner and Quezon on Goodhue versus 600 to 700 vehicles per day at the other intersections. Do the counters scrutinize between cars and semis, or does this back up what I've been saying all along about excessive illegal semi-traffic coming from Holland, Sylvania and turning on Warner? With this information, I cannot believe that there are smaller streets than Goodhue in Sylvania Township away from businesses that had qualified for speed bumps. By the way, I was not the one that started the speed bump petition. In case you're not aware, about 6 weeks ago, there was a horrific crash at Piero and Goodhue. I believe the driver who was required to stop at the stop sign on Piero claimed a brake failure. He was driving an older Trailblazer and collided with a brand new Hyundai, possibly on a test drive. The Trailblazer spun after the collision and hit a utility pole, cracking it. The Hyundai wound up in the front yard of a residence with the airbags deployed and one person was injured. Of course, both vehicles were totaled. This kind of collision you would expect at a major intersection and not a small neighborhood. I truly believe that the drivers cutting through are avoiding Central Avenue for a reason, like no license or
suspended license, no insurance, transporting drugs or on drugs, or have been drinking. I would not be shocked if some of the dealer shuttle drivers, had no license the way they race through the neighborhood. I believe that the answer is going to be four-way stop signs at all of the intersections except Quezon. Stop signs at Goodhue and Warner, Goodhue and Marsrow, Goodhue and Fairbanks, Goodyear and Piero. Again, I will point out that Goodhue east of Holland, Sylvania, has four-way stop signs at every intersection. This may be the answer to slow traffic down, which has been my complaint all along. Thank you.
Thank you.
I unfortunately had to get my windshield replaced, and it's right there at the corner of Goodhue and Warner, I believe, and you know, there was quite a bit of evidence of semi-trucks turning and tearing up the front yards and the right-of-ways there. I think that's a bad situation that the state put us in with the, turning and things, and I don't know what the solution is. I mean, it's just not, what's a semi-truck to do? Rob, a four-way stop sign's an option, or I know we probably have...
I spoke with Ron Myers, the Lucas County Traffic Engineer, Ohio Department of Transportation. The installation of stop signs is not to be used, according to the Ohio Uniform Traffic Code, to control speed. Speeding is an illegal issue that is dealt with in other ways than installation of stop signs. The tendency to install the stop signs would be when a vehicle approaching the stop sign has to stop, then they just speed that much further, leaving the stop sign. So you're not controlling behavior by installing stop signs. What we did look at was the potential of, in the future, because of the signaling that was done on Central Avenue and the change to Fairbanks, there's a new signal at Fairbanks that was never there before, and the vacation of the other roads to the west of Fairbanks. There's two roads now. One has been vacated and the other one's in the process of being vacated. So those will be dead ends. So there's a tendency now for the traffic to come down Fairbanks because it's the only outlet off of Central Avenue that has a light. And it's also the tendency for the neighborhood to use Fairbanks because they can enter Central Avenue. So they would call that a collector street. So we're going to review this now with ODOT and Lucas County engineers, Ron Myers, the traffic engineer over there, and potentially take a look at developing Fairbanks as a collector street and then putting four ways, because Fairbanks would be designated as a collector street. That would indicate that at those cross streets we would want four ways. So potentially at Fairbanks you would have a four-way. So Fairbanks is about halfway between Goodhue, or between Holland, Sylvania, and Moffett, which is the length of Goodhue. So at one point you would have to stop going down that road, but that also creates a tendency for also more traffic incidences when you have a four-way intersection. As I'm sure Chief Bomey is aware, you do have a tendency to have more traffic incidences. So that's one item to look at, but the installation of street signs and four-ways at every intersection is probably not a feasible act. It would go against the Ohio Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration's recommendations. And we certainly would want their recommendation along with Lucas County Engineer's Office to do that. Why they are installed across there is not, I don't have an answer. Whatever the reasoning was to install those at the time they were installed, they've probably been there at least 40 years. I don't know if they have a speeding problem.
I've traveled it, they don't have.
Well,
Maybe not now, but quite honestly, when the construction was there the previous summer, we did get lots of calls of speeders through there too.
what,
I think your neighborhood is worse because of the boulevard that, you have all the way to Holland, Sylvania, and Central. We don't get the calls now in that neighborhood you're talking about, Belmont, being Fleet and such, but we did get it before when people were cutting that corner too during construction.
one possible reason why they do have the four ways over there is you have boulevards on the other side where Bonzel's and Goodhue on the west side of Holland, Sylvania are not boulevards. Van Fleet has a light, so that is also a collector street. So it has had the light for many years as Walmart changed different agencies, but for the traffic that was coming in and out of the Walmart and that development right there on the other side of Central.
Well, I have another question then.
Could you come up to the,
Me? It's a short one. How does Shamley Green in Sylvania Township qualify for a speed bump as well as Nantucket and Wilfred?
I would have to pull the traffic studies that were used to do those installations. Those speed humps could have been there for 35 years for all I know. They've been there at least 25 years that I know of, and before that, I'm not sure when they were installed. I could look into that and tell you what the traffic counts and speed limits. It could be the mere fact that there wasn't a policy in Sylvania Township when those were installed as well.
I'd like to know the answer, because I live on Shanley Green.
Okay.
Yeah, seriously.
I will
mean,
get
I
that.
probably have 10 cars down my street.
I know Nantucket met the criteria.
Nantucket was the speed limit, obviously, was because that was a cut-through from Monroe Street to, and the thought process is when you install, for example, if we installed speed humps on Goodhue, we would also have to petition and ask the residents on Bonzel's, which is the street to the north, because that would directly affect them. Because if people were to avoid the speed humps, they would go down Bonzel's. So potentially Bonzel's and Goodhue would have to get them. Then that would push the traffic to Blossman, which is designed for more traffic, and it is signaled at both ends. So I can get you the answer for
That'd be great.
when those were installed, and I hope I answered some of the questions regarding why it has been in the past. More than likely, they're on Shamley Green because they were on Nantucket. And if you know, Shamley Green connects, people would have just jumped down Shamley Green and then went back up to get around them.
But they couldn't have done 60 miles an hour. That street isn't big enough.
I understand. So,
Thank you.
any other questions?
Rob, yeah, I do. The way I read, you got the traffic stuff up here, but wasn't the county engineer's recommendation that we proceed with the 2 stop sign locations?
His recommendations was for him and I to review that area and look at the potential of making Fairbanks the collector street and putting the stop signs there.
Myself, that's what the recommendation said.
Well,
I think we ought to proceed with that. I said maybe you were hesitant about that. Am I missing something?
Well, I would certainly like to figure out where, I don't actually see a recommendation. I see that is a potential outcome of what has happened. It's just an afterthought of the design of Central Avenue, the Fairbanks signal, and how it diverted traffic. That whole area, has changed dramatically. What's that,
Are you
sir?
hesitant about proceeding?
Not hesitant about proceeding, but I don't want to speak for Ron Myers and say that he recommended something. I don't have that document.
I think we ought to pursue that myself. I don't know how the other two feel. With the county engineer.
The intent, I spoke with Ron last Thursday, and our intent is to meet out there, review all the signaling, review the traffic count data, as well as what's on the ground as far as our own internal signage, and then what we could do to make that happen. It's as simple as getting a recommendation from him. The board would have to approve the installation of them and pass a resolution to do that.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Page 2, page 3, obviously you're going to see some increase both in fire and rescue responses. We're up at least 30 in one and about 20 in the other. Page 4, automatic aid 4 was given, 4 was received. Mutual aid received was 2. Mutual aid given, the mutual aid given was the one for the huge Toledo fire. They had actually called for an engine and a truck, and I did not have the ability to give them both, so we were able to give them an engine. So, Medic 61 for the month of June had 48 incidents. 43 were transports, 5 were canceled, and 5 went by private auto. Again, that was patient's choice. Community risk reduction, Deputy Chief Freilich and the crews were able to do Safety City and Safety Town. We spent 2 days at both of them. One day is completely for fire safety, the other day is for EMS. And then myself and the other chiefs, we were present for graduation on Friday also. Chief Freilich did attend the National Professional Development Summit at the National Fire Academy and was able to bring back some good information from there. Our 8-hour-a-day fire prevention guy was able to perform 127 inspections in June. As you can see, Mike had quite a bit of building and projection plan reviews, which with having the 8-hour-a-day guy frees Mike up to get more of those completed. As far as the state inspections, those were down a little bit. The state had some changing of the guard with their guy for Lucas County, so some of those got put on hold. Page 7 was our training for the month. We were able to get our one full-time firefighter through the recruit school. We were also able to get all 6 of the 7 part-time gentlemen that we hired through the recruit school. Just to kind of give you a little heads up, we were afforded the school/church next door from the city. We were able to spend all of the time for the recruit school at that facility, which for us to have a facility like that is outstanding. We don't normally get a place like that to be able to perform quite a bit of different activities that we do. Just to kind of hit on one of them, you'll see firefighter safety and survival and RIT training. Lieutenant Morris and Captain Fry were able to go to the 2nd floor. They were able to actually cut a hole in the floor, and what they did was they ran a hose up, and the hose actually went down through the hole, and what it was it was to rescue a downed firefighter. They were able to use fake smoke. I was in there at least 4 times. You couldn't even see your toes with how thick the smoke was, and it was invaluable training. We don't get a chance to do that, so I had to definitely thank the city for allowing us to use that. We will be turning the keys over on Monday morning. This weekend, we're planning on doing ladder and rooftop operations this weekend, and then we'll be turning the building back over. But I see Mr. Hannum's here, and I definitely I did thank the mayor and Mr. Alla for allowing us to get in there. Overtime for the month was at 209 hours. I also had Becky add the funded overtime, just so you guys can kind of see an idea of how many hours we're putting out there that we're actually getting paid back for. And obviously in July you're going to see more of that because we had the fireworks and the Marathon Open. You'll see just a little bit more from there funded-wise. And actually the last page, page 9, it was another thank you from a young lady that actually we were not able to revive her husband. She still sent a really nice note back to us. And just kind of give you a little heads up, I just returned from the Ohio Fire Chiefs Conference. I was there for a few days, and just to let you know, Northwest Ohio was well represented. We had over 30 chiefs from Northwest Ohio present. And we do caucuses for our areas, and 2 of the areas had less than 4 chiefs at them. So our area was very well represented. I thank you guys for allowing me to go to those things because it's just good stuff. So, questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm wondering, John, could you send a letter to the mayor and thank him for using I think it would be good to do that in writing if you would. Yeah, thank you.
Chief Carroll?
Jimmy?
Hi, Ray.
Glad I remember my blue blazer this time. Thank you for giving me the time. Just a few minutes. If you recall, a few months ago, I came here to talk about a survey that the police department was going to conduct in conjunction with Lord's University. And I just want to take a few minutes, and I brought Dr. Keller here, who's the brains behind the whole thing, to kind of give you a little thumbnail sketch. We have about another 3 weeks to go. We've only been taking surveys for about a month, and already got about 275, something like that, 275 results. So free advertising, if anybody's in here who lives in Smee Township, grab a questionnaire on the way out. To show our dedication to this, obviously, Dr. Keller and I actually met in Ireland and had a beer in a pub to discuss this project. So that'll be tax deductible, I think. Is that tax deductible? Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to present Dr. Keller, and he's just going to give you a little sketch on what we're doing here.
Good afternoon. My name is Terry Keller. I'm the Dean of the College of Social Sciences at Lourdes, and it really is nice to take a couple of minutes here and talk about this. This project was really a joint effort between the Township Police and also our students. We have one of our graduate students here tonight as well. And really, they put forth the effort in terms of gathering information, shaping the questions, putting the survey together, and we're happy to come back once the final report is due. And just a little snapshot of kind of what we're seeing so far, 275 responses so far, and it's not surprising, it's reflective of what was just previously talked about in this meeting tonight in terms of traffic, particular areas. It's looking at patrols, it's looking at, obviously some of the good things that the Township Police Department is doing as well. It's well represented here. And we're asking questions from looking at traffic to the perception of drug use, perception of, other things such as patrol. So we're really excited to share that feedback with you. And thank you as well, because this is a fantastic learning experience for students, because really my research class is not their top priority for them to take, and it's not the most enjoyable at times, but this makes it real life. So we definitely appreciate it and look forward to sharing the final report.
Thanks, Doc.
Yep. Good work.
Thanks, Chief.
Good evening.
Hi, Chief.
You have before you the monthly report for June, and I'll just go through this very, very quickly. You can see on page 2 the calls for service. They continue to be pretty steady month to month. Those total 7,205 total calls in the dispatch. Page 3, you can see Records Bureau offenses, reports, or calls for service. We are down a little bit. That's up at the top of the page. Citations, we're down very slightly. Property damage accidents, we're down a decent number. I'm happy to report. We happen to be exactly the same number year-to-date with our injury accidents. And then most of our offenses we're down. We're down in burglaries. We're down in robberies. We're up in domestic violence slightly. It's really a crime that cannot be prevented by patrol or such. We're down in assaults, down in identity thefts, down in OVIs, down in thefts, and we're up just a little bit in all our other offenses. Page 4, you can see that the prisoner transport, assisting the city, continues to be a good deal for both departments. We take care of their transports, and it's not costing us a whole lot of money. Page 5, detective caseload stats. You can see them broken out there, but in a nutshell, 51 cases were assigned in the month of June, of which 21 were cleared, leaving 30 active. Prior month's cases, 23 were cleared for a total clearance number of cases of 44. Page 6, you can see the activities of our DEA task force detective. There's really not a whole lot of great significance there. He is working on a case with a marijuana dealer in Sylvania Township that you can see in that last sentence should produce more results down the road. Page 7, you'll see in the bold print, community affairs along with detectives have been assigned background checks. And we do have 6 dispatcher candidates that we will be interviewing next Tuesday, July 25th. Expect to actually come up with a name probably that afternoon or the next day, so that we will have a name for you to fill that vacancy for the next trustee meeting on August 1st. And we are actually spending quite a bit of time on, they're conducting, those are obviously, the dispatch backgrounds are all completed. We're in the midst of doing the officer background checks now. because we had to move down to a second of band to get a number of quality candidates. In the schools, the one thing of note, I just want to thank Chief Ram from the fire department and Rob from the road department for their efforts in assisting us in jointly putting together Safety Town. I think it's a great event for the community, and it's a real nice collaborative effort. Speed trailer, shockingly, we're not getting any calls for the speed trailer this time of year, which is kind of a surprise. Page 8, just some of the smaller figures that we get in forfeiture funds and such. I will tell you that in our 232 account, I mentioned it before, actually that $27,835, I think it was, from our DEA task force detective was just deposited into our 232 account this past week. So that's a nice figure. Page 9, with our overtime, up a little. Summer months, as you know, we're down a dispatcher, which makes it really tough on midnights, but not terribly above. I also will tell you that you see it says it includes all paid overtime. The overtime that shows for administration and patrol, Lieutenant Austin in administration and a number of officers in patrol actually are working traffic grants this time of year. And so we get reimbursed for all that. So we are by no means paying out of our budget for all 225.75 hours. So, with that, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Just a comment, Chief, you sent a letter to the city, the cooperation on the 4th of July. I appreciate that.
Oh.
Fireworks sounded like the traffic got cleared out pretty good this
year. It was terrific. It really was. It was probably a greater volume of traffic than we've had. Seems like one of the perks, I think they must market it when they sell houses within a square mile of Centennial Terrace, that it's a good night to have a party, a fireworks party or whatever, because those neighborhoods are full. As Rob knows, we post it for parking and everything. And
that's a joint effort that you team up with the city.
Yeah.
Really
Sergeant Pack with the city was their incident commander, and oh, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, Chief.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. The first item I have, and I think some people signed up for discussion, is the Resolution 17-082. It's the TARDA proposal of eliminating their property tax and putting on a 0.5% sales tax and adding Lucas County as a member. So with that, if there's any discussion.
Carol?
I assume you read the email that I sent. I'd just like to reiterate that I think that you've got an opportunity here, that's a good solution. The waiting 1 year harms absolutely nobody because no service is being taken away during that time. TARDA has come in and asked for far more money than they need in order to do what they say that they're going to do, although I don't think that they've presented you with a strategic plan that tells you how any of that's going to be used. But by waiting 1 simple year, next year they can put on the ballot, you can approve, they can put on 0.10%, 0.20%, whatever they truly need, and then the people certainly should have the right to say yes or no to it. But by putting it on now, the way it is, you realize that the city of Toledo has a large volume of voters that always vote yes on these issues. It will get put through at a much higher amount than is need be, and you will lose all control forever over that money. So I ask you as a taxpayer to vote no on this tonight I will thank you as a taxpayer, I'm sure others will too, and I'll bet that the auto dealers over on Central will say thank you also if you vote no.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Jessica?
Jessica Weinberg, 7168 Tottenham. I just want to, first of all, point out, I'm sure that, I'm sure other people have given you the argument that this resolution is not the final word on whether we go to a sales tax. It approves putting the issue on the ballot, and then it becomes the voter's decision. There have been other transit-related resolutions in the past where I recall that, I believe even the question in the past of whether Sylvania Township was going to continue to belong to Targa and some of the other townships that wanted to put that on the ballot, and that argument was used, that they should have, that the voters have the right to decide to be a member or not, and that was a question of taking it away altogether, which I understand that's not what this is, but if taking it away altogether is a voters' rights issue, why isn't this choice between, why not let the voters decide between the two methods of paying, sales tax versus property tax? And then this comment about that Targa's asking for more money than it needs, that was done because there were some communities that were very locked into some obligations based on, they needed the property tax funding for these, what are they called, TIFs, tax increment financing. So that was their objection to going to a sales tax. And the reason for the extra money is to compensate them, to replace that money, so that that's no longer an issue, so that they're no longer harmed. And I was surprised when that became portrayed as kind of a bad thing, because I think that's one of the few times in the last couple of years in politics, we've been hearing for the last few years about lack of civility, lack of collaboration, and here, when these communities raise this issue, we know that, this will hurt us we'll lose this revenue. Targa came up with a way to do both, to have the sales tax and also make up that TIF money. So I see that as a very collaborative approach. I think if we ended up with, if they put they took okay, what's the objection? They don't want to lose this money for TIF, and then they came up with a way to have a sales tax and yet not lose the money. I think if it was scaled back to a lower amount of sales tax, perhaps that issue would be revived. Those other communities wouldn't be compensated. And although I look forward to further discussion of what could be done with the new money that's generated for Targa if there was a sales tax, but I think we can continue to have that discussion between now and November.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jim Etzel?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi, Jim.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I want to come before you this evening to say that I am a TARPS writer and a charter writer. I use it every day to go places, to do my work, to go to entertainment, to do great community things that I do. I spend money in the community. And when I talk about the community, I talk about the community as a whole. I'm talking about the city of Sylvania. I'm talking about Sylvania Township. I'm talking about the city of Toledo. And I'm in favor of letting the voters decide whether they want this issue as a countywide sales tax, because I made my living as a politician and an activist. For over 40 years I've worked with and for people with disabilities so they can get up in the morning, so they can go to work, so they can be an active and contributing member of the society, just as every other person in the society is allowed to do. And I see politicians from all over the country that have talked to have said every election is local and all politics is local and every vote counts. And this is a way that I think you can actually make sure that every vote in your community counts, and also show that you believe in the greater community of Northwest Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, thanks for all your volunteer work,
Yeah.
too. I mean, there aren't many people out there that do things that you're doing, and I can't thank you enough for giving back and helping people out, too, so really appreciate it.
Well, I was just downtown this morning at a healthcare rally, and then I came out.
Oh,
here
boy, you're
to
busy.
talk with you guys. So I really appreciate your
Thanks for
time
coming.
and your efforts, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does the board have any discussion, or are we ready for a vote?
I think we ought to give Tarda a chance.
They didn't sign in, but they're more than welcome to.
Thank you, Mr. Genowine. My apologies.
Hi, Jim.
Good evening. Hi, Neil. Hi, John. My name is Jim Gee, General Manager of TARDA. I want to thank you for this consideration of the resolution, which would allow the voters to decide to choose between the method of property tax or sales tax for how we fund public transit in our region. As you know, Sylvania Township is an original member of TARDA since 1971. TARDA has been on 2.5 mills of property tax since 1988. So we're going 30 years of status quo in terms of our property tax funding. We've not been status quo in how we offer our service. Since that 1988, we've introduced TARPs. We've introduced Call a Ride. We've invested in technology like apps to see where your bus is and when it'll come to your bus stop. But the funding method we have is status quo, and it does hamstring us quite a bit. What we're seeking is not your endorsement of this resolution, but essentially your permission to continue it on to the voters so that ultimately the voters can decide what method they would prefer between the two taxes. Here in Sylvania Township, you contribute $2.2 million in property taxes towards TARDA. Besides the city of Toledo, you're the largest contributor to TARDA's service. We thank you for that, but the burden is on the homeowners and not on everyone who uses the service and uses the roads in your community. So we just ask you to please consider allowing your voters in the region to have a choice and to move this resolution forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
I think the issue is whether put it on the ballot or not. I don't know about my fellow trustees here, but I've had more comment on this than any, I'm on my 4th year, than any other issue, other than a rezoning request. We get quite a turnout at our meetings for rezoning requests. But I've had about 24 contacts, and it seems like it's running about 50-50 to me. Some supporting this and some criticizing the system we have now, which isn't new, Jim, how it's funded, the buses, and how empty some of them are. But I would compliment you and our representative, Mr. Caldwell, that you are trying to change something here, and change is always difficult for the community, but it seems to me to let the voters decide the best way to fund this service. Sylvania Township's been in it for a long time, and we're part of a regional system, which means, as I understand it, any one of the 7 partners, if you turn this down, then it doesn't go to the voters. And some of the partners, we have 7 partners in the TARDIS system. I would hate to see Sylvania Township be the one that says no, but that's certainly up to you guys. But I feel like we should support this, and I'll make a motion to support Resolution 17082. I think there's some great advantages. I think the biggest thing that I wasn't able to determine this week, you have your needs spelled out, Jim, but I couldn't compare it. I mean, you've got the money, how it would be spent, but I'm sure when you expand service to the whole county, we got to be a little flexible that we're not doing that in an inefficient manner. But I think I'm comfortable in at least letting the voters decide. And it's not us to sell it, I think it's up to the TARDA. We're one partner. So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Any further discussion?
Well, I'll second it, and then, do you have anything to add, Neil?
Yeah, I guess I would, just briefly here. We just approved a land use plan in Sylvania Township, and this plan was to involve the community, and we've had multiple meetings. It was even brought up tonight on the board as to what we're talking about and where we see the future of Sylvania Township. And right now, we're evaluating what's our acreage and how much land do we have that's still around and things of that nature. And with no disrespect to TARDA, but I haven't seen a plan that really is, I'd love for you guys to come back, as Carol maybe had mentioned, come back with a plan that would involve the neighborhoods, involve Springfield, or Sylvania Township, involve the city of Sylvania. And I'd love for you to come back because you guys know, 5 years ago, we were behind you guys about not having a competing service out here. And it's not I can't say, my moral compass says to allow $13 million more out of our economy to approve without a plan. I just have a problem with that, and I just wanted to clear the air with that. Sure, Jim.
I just want to address the $13 million more out of the economy. This proposal, this resolution, is actually a way for your homeowners in the township to save money. Will they save money every year? No. However, they at least have control over their sales tax spending, and they will have some homeowners will have the ability to save money on this proposal. I have 2 kids in college.
Sure.
I have 1 kid in college, 1 kid in junior high, I should say. I ran the numbers for my household. They're both boys, they eat a lot. Under this proposal, it was a wash. But at least with a wash, I can control my spending. I can't control my property taxes very well. Where that extra $13 million comes from, primarily is from visitors. It's from people who live outside of Lucas County. They come into Lucas County for work. They come into Lucas County to see attractions. And they're, by just virtue of their spending, will be contributing to the overall economy as they do now.
Yeah, Jim, don't miss my point. I didn't tell you I'm against it, or I didn't tell you, I'm not, you haven't heard me come out saying I'm for it or against it. What you have heard me say is, come back with a plan. That's all I'm asking. And last night I went to Sylvania City Council and I heard the same thing. That's all we're saying. I'm not, believe me, what that man is doing over here and helping people out and volunteering his time, I want him to have the opportunity to get anywhere he wants in Lucas County. I have no issue with that. I just have an issue with my own, just the plan side of it. And then that's where I come into the issue with it. And anyways, I don't want to get too winded and bore you guys with my thoughts on this thing either, but that's kind of what I'm thinking.
I think Mr. Etzel put it best, all politics is local. I represent the township residents, and I'm not willing to turn this over to the city of Toledo to make the decision for us. So let's call the roll, Mr. Simcoe.
Okay, Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
No.
Mr. Genowine?
No.
Thanks for your effort, though. Appreciate all your guys' work on it.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Resolution 17-083, and once again, sometimes when you do the cut and paste, you make an error. The title of the resolution has certified to the Lucas County Auditor starting tax year in the resolution says 2016, that should be 17, and with the collection to begin in 2018. The body of the resolution is correct, it was just the heading. And this will send to the Lucas County Auditor, and this is for the assessments for street lighting in these neighborhoods that the auditor will put on their tax bills.
I'll offer Resolution 17-083, approve certification of street lighting districts to the Lucas County Auditor.
Second?
Call the roll, Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
My next item is Resolution 17084, is to accept the renewal from the Ohio Plan for the property casualty insurance. The Stapleton Insurance Company submitted the proposal. It's actually a slight decrease over last year's policy.
I'll offer Resolution 17084 to accept the renewal from Ohio Plan for property casualty insurance.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
I'm going to abstain on that one.
And then the last one was put on the agenda, it's the SAGR appointment.
I was the one who added this. I was kind of dumbfounded when a resident of a community emailed me the sale agreement of Mr. Rick Vaughn's condo that he stood up here and said in front of the public and to the residents of our community that he still owned. Again, my only question was, does that board have a residency requirement, and what it was? And he took that and stood up here and lied. And that bothered me, that our representative, it would have been the city of Sylvania or somebody else's, it's none of our business, but he is our representative, and I just found that,
I was just as bothered by the comment on that. I called him and I said, hey, tell me where you're at, where you live, copy your driver's license. He has, and you can hear, I didn't make copies, I called him like the day after, and he's got a lease contract on this, and he's still got a 5-year lease on his property, so I don't know what else.
So land contract?
Yeah, that's what it says on the contract here. I've got a copy of it, so if you want to review that, feel free to, but any more than that, I think you can, Mr. Burrell, I think you don't have to be in ownership of a property to be on a board, do you? You just have to live in the township.
You have to live in the recreational district.
Okay, very good. So anyways, take a look at it. John, I'll make a
Well,
copy of
he
that for you,
doesn't
too.
live here if he's got a...
He's got a lease. It's a current lease. So that's a current
I
lease.
called the rec district, and you have to be a resident of the Sylvania Rec District, which their boundary is the school district. So you have to be a resident of the school district, and I believe he is.
I don't know, other than what he gave me, so
Well, I don't see any need to pursue this
Well,
any further unless you have some other reason.
Well, again, the guy stood up here and said he owned a condo in there, and, if the $1 lease he has a year, again, is going to suffice. I don't want to push it anymore. I did ask a few people if they had interest in being on the board, and most of them said they hope to get most of the issues that I have brought up with the rec district resolved before they had any interest. So, you know, I do have a problem when somebody stands up and said what he said and now presents some sort of $1 a lease agreement and tries to...
I understood it that he resided there.
Yeah, I don't know, all I did was call him and said, hey, send me, you know, if you don't live in the township.
Well, it was in the minutes that we passed that he stood up and said he lived at Fairways on Monroe Street.
Yeah, well, I think living there is resigning. I don't.
But he doesn't reside there. What his comment was, he owns 3 houses, one in Florida, one here, and...
Colorado.
No, he said Florida here, and then his primary residence is out there in the Springfield Township, I believe.
Again, it's a lease. Feel free to have your attorney review it, or anybody. It's 2014.
I just, you know, I don't like liars, and for someone to stand up here and tell me he owns a place.
I don't know if he is or not, John. I just did my due diligence on it, yeah.
Okay. Fiscal officer?
Yes, just quickly, the month-end analysis for June, and you've had a chance to look at it, and we are doing well. We've got slightly more revenue than we projected, other than the fire fund, and that's because we have only received one of our quarterly payments. We should have another one coming in, and they should be up over 51% or over 50% too. And expenses, again, which we focus on the most, because revenue is pretty predictable coming in from levies and the like. We are doing well on our expenses as far as percentage of the budget, and I don't think we could be doing really better than what we're really doing. We do, myself and the trustees do work hard on our budget to have realistic numbers, and the trustees pay attention to the numbers as well as the department heads. You know, we just don't pass it and just then ignore it, but the trustees focus on it. I do, department heads do. We try to do a good job making sure we're doing the right expenditures. And so far, it's going well. So that's really all I have on our finances. At 6 months here.
Looks good.
Thanks, Dave.
Hearing of the public non-agenda, I think we took care of that. So at this time, I would like to offer a motion to go into executive session at 6:03
Second.
to discuss pending or imminent court action.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. You getting up to the lake much?
Not much.
No.
In and out soccer tournaments, and I went last weekend, and go up this weekend. That's at Faster Horses weekend, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's always kind of a fun crowd up there, watching all the kids. You can hear the music.
Okay, I guess we're going.
All right.
Wait a minute.
All right.
You think there's no delay there or something?
This will be on the tape tomorrow.
Can we delete that? 13 is calling me right now. I don't want to go on the record.
What's that? Yes, it says it's recording.
Okay. I'd like to offer a motion to come out of executive session at 6:37.
Second.
You call the the roll. Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
I'd like to offer a motion to, did you want to say? I'd like to offer a motion to adjourn at 6:38.
Second.
Okay, call the roll. Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Next meeting,
Hey,
August 1st.
JB, I got a question for you.
Do I?